Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and this is Hazel June. I work with online entrepreneurs to help them monetize their expertise so they can impact more lives, earn more income, and enjoy more freedom in their business. Now, this video is part of what I call the whiteboard sessions, and these videos are basically designed to give you how-tos and tips and tricks in terms of creating your first or next online course. So if that is your jam, go ahead and hit subscribe. I do release one video per week, which means that if you want to get notified, go ahead and hit that notification bell. So let's go ahead and get started with this video. Bye.
All right, folks. Well, let's go ahead and dive in to today's video, which is all about how to ditch the overwhelm in creating an online course. Now, here's the thing. One of the common reasons why people put off creating an online course is because they find the process really overwhelming. It can be a very daunting project to start and make. So, in this video, I'm going to share with you a simple way to actually ditch the overwhelm in terms of creating your online course. So, let's go ahead and get started. Now, here's what I found the reason why people find course creation an overwhelming process. You ready for this? That reason is because they try to put everything, all of the bells and whistles, into their online course. And that's the reason why it can become overwhelming. Think of it this way: if you are just on step zero or step one, the things that you need in order to set up your course is way different from a course creator who is on step 50 or step 20. There's just so many different needs or factors that you would need to consider depending on the stage where you're at. And so that is the cause of the overwhelm. We try to put every single thing into the online course. And I've been there. I know exactly how that feels, and I know how overwhelming that can be. But one of the things that I started to wrap my head around is the fact that a course is always a work in progress. And here's what I mean by that: the first version of your course is not going to be perfect. And the chances are you are going to change it, revise a small portion here and there, or sometimes you might just revamp the entire thing, like the entire course. And I've done this, I've seen a lot of people do it. Okay. So again, the first version of your course is not going to be perfect. It will never be perfect. The first iteration is far from maybe your ideal online course, and that is okay. Super duper okay. All right. So I need you to start embracing the fact that a course needs to be perfect the first time, because it's really not. Now, that said, avoiding the overwhelm in creating a course means keeping the process so dang simple. It means forgetting about, making it all look pretty, being fancy with your tech, and just sticking with what is needed for your students to get results. Okay. So, again, in order to make that overwhelming process go away, you would need to forget about making everything pretty, because a lot of people actually like get into that headspace where they feel the need for for the course to be so dang fancy, and it's not needed, especially for your first iteration, the first version of the course. Okay, so forget about that and just focus on what I call the bare essentials, the bare minimum that is needed for your students to get results. So here's what we're going to do today in this video. I'm going to share with you a simple process that can potentially help you eliminate guesswork and dramatically speed up your launch. You ready? Let's go ahead and get started. So, the first one is what I call find what people want. That is the first step. Okay. So, let me just share it with you here. This is the first step. You would want to find what people want. And if you've seen some of the videos that I've created in the past, you know that I always use or I always compare online courses with online marketing or marketing in general, right? So, in marketing, the very first thing you want to start with is your market. You want to know exactly who you're serving. Same thing with your course. You also want to know who it is, who your ideal students are, right? Because if we are going to create a course on different people, like a large demographic base, their starting points are not going to be the same. They will have different levels in terms of where they're currently at. And if that is the case, it's a lot difficult to create a learning journey or a learning map that is going to get them from point A to point B. Does that make sense? So you always want to look at what it is or who it is you're actually targeting, who your ideal students are, and then find out what is it that they want. And the best thing to find out what they want is look at the marketplace, right? Look at the marketplace and see if they're actually buying what they're already buying the solution that they are offering. Because if that solution already exists, then that means there's a demand for it, right? Now, the best ways or the best platforms that you can use in order to validate if or find out what people actually want, you go to Amazon, look for books, right? You go to course marketplaces like Udemy and see if a course has already been created on the topic that you would want to create a course on, and see if there are paying students, right? Because that's what you want. You want to see if people are already paying for the solution that you're offering or a similar solution to what you're offering. Okay? That's the easiest way to go about it. Now, the second step is crafting your course offer and then selling it. Now, a course offer means that you know exactly who you're targeting, meaning you know who your ideal students are, you know the results that they want, and you know where they're currently at. Those are the three things. And then finally, you have a plan, which is basically your content, what your course is about, right? That's gonna bridge where they're at to where they want to be. So let me just repeat that, okay? Your course offer needs to have four different elements: your ideal student's profile, where they're currently at, where they want to go, and the bridge that's going to make that happen. The bridge that's going to connect them from where they are right now to where they want to be. Okay? That is your course offer. Once you're clear on those four elements, then you are actually ready to sell that idea. You're ready to sell that solution. And I'm a huge fan of pre selling, because for me, it just doesn't make sense to create a course if you don't know that people are actually willing and able to pay for it, right? And you've probably heard me talk about this so many times, but it's so dang important to repeat it. Um, because I've seen a lot of content creators who create a lot of content. They spend so much time, and sometimes they even invest in different tools and marketing, right? Only to find out that nobody wants to buy the course. So I'd like to save you from that headache. I'd like to save you from that by advising you or recommending to actually have your course sold before you create it. Okay, that's the second step. And there's a lot of different ways that you can go about selling it. You can like pitch it to, your current network. You can reach out on Facebook or Instagram or any other social media platforms, right? Or if you have an existing audience, it would be nice to actually get in touch with them and let them know that you're creating something amazing and you would want to see if they're actually interested and are willing to pay for it, right? So there's a lot of different selling mechanisms that you can actually use in order to pre-sell your course, okay? Now, the third step is to test your course content and delivery. Now, here is the thing. The reason why I always say that the first iteration of your course is not going to be perfect, because that first go, that initial cohort is basically a test. Okay. It's basically a dry run. It's basically a test drive of your delivery of the content and the amount of content that you have on the course. Okay. Here's the thing. So I've been in the training and development space for over a decade. And whenever I facilitate training sessions, that first training is always a test for me. It's always a test drive for me, because then during that initial class, I would know if I'm, number one, over teaching. Second, if I'm under teaching, meaning there are missing gaps that I need to fill in. That also lets me know if the delivery framework that I've used works for my students, right? That also lets me know if what are the common questions that my students actually ask, because that lets me know that I need to probably reinforce those concepts, right, around the questions that, that they ask. So that initial cohort is a test. It's not the final version of your course. Okay. This is one of the things that I see a lot of course creators usually struggle with. And I've been there. Like what I've mentioned earlier, I've been in that same shithole, and it would be nice to get our head wrapped around the idea that our first course or that first class is just a test, right? So treat it as a test, give yourself some grace, okay? Give yourself some grace, learn from your students' feedback, and encourage your students to co-create the course with you. And that's a co-creation is a very powerful framework that you can use in your initial cohorts, that that also empowers your students and gets your students more involved in the actual course. Okay. So go ahead and test your course content and deliver method during that first or initial class. Okay. Now, once you're done with your first class, then it's time for you to get feedback from your students and iterate, right? Now, I would say that you don't want to wait until the course is over before you ask for feedback. Always ask for feedback every time you deliver your content, because you want to see if the content that you've delivered is enough for your students to take action on, if the delivery is effective enough for your students to actually understand the concept. Have you given them, maybe the concept is too overwhelming, so how can you break it down even further, right? Or maybe the delivery can was a bit confusing, so you want to give more examples, you want to provide more visuals for your learners or students to understand it better. So there's a lot of different ways, there's a lot of different opportunities for you to actually improve your course. And you're not going to be able to do that unless you've gotten feedback from your students. So always, always, always ask your students for feedback. Okay. And then, of course, feedback is not going to be useful unless you act on it, right? So, whatever the feedback is, as long as, of course, it's reasonable and you know that there's enough basis for that feedback, then you can start iterating your course. Okay. You can tweak the content delivery, you can tweak maybe the worksheets need some redoing, right? Or maybe you need to adjust the slide decks or the sequence of the content. You need to adjust it because it doesn't make sense for your students, right? So based on your students' feedback, go ahead and improve on the course, enhance it, iterate some of the content, tweak some of the delivery, totally up to, or totally base it from, of course, how the learning experience of your students. Okay. And then finally, step 5 is to prepare for your next launch. So now that you have improved your course content and delivery, now you have feedback from your students, and I'm pretty sure if you've really encouraged implementation all throughout your first cohort, then your students must have gotten some results, right? Just by taking action. And you can reuse those success stories as testimonials and case studies for your next launch. So now you have enough data to run your next launch by. Okay. And it's not just data that you can use for marketing. You can also use that same data in improving your course over and over and over again. Make sense? So these are the 5 simple ways. It's not easy, right? It's not easy, but it's so dang simple compared to like a 10-step checklist that you have to follow in order to get your course out there. All right. So if you're going to look at this entire process, it's very similar to running a marketing campaign, right? Because the first campaign that you run is not always going to be a winner. You run it, you gather data, and then you tweak it as needed, right? Same thing with online courses. You run, you gather data, and then you tweak it, right? Test and tweak all the freaking time. Okay? That's why I always love comparing online courses with marketing, because they just have so many things in common in terms of processes and frameworks. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of different ways to create an online course. There is no blanket approach in terms of getting your course out there, but at least the bare minimum that you need in order to get your course out there is these 5 different steps. Okay. And one of the core principle that I always embody whenever I help my clients is that launching lean and launching fast. Okay. It's something that I've learned over time, after working with different clients, committing mistakes along the way. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned in terms of online courses or launching online courses, is that you launch lean and you launch fast, especially for your first or pilot class. Okay. So, needless to say, that has been a game changer for me and my business. So, I highly suggest that you embrace the principle as well. Again, launch lean and launch fast for your pilot class. Cool? Because remember, that is just testing, right? That's testing if your market wants it. That's testing if your students are actually learning from how you delivered it. And that's actually testing if your students are getting results based on the content that you have shared. That's testing and getting enough data so you have a more successful launch the next time. Cool? Awesome. So there you go. That is a simple process to ditch the overwhelm in creating an online course. As always, if you are digging course creation, go ahead and hit subscribe to my channel. And if you got some questions, feel free to send me an email so I can create a video and answer any of your questions. Feel free to drop them in the comments below, or you can send me an email as well. My email address is going to be in the description box. So go ahead and check that out as well. Okay. And if you need more resources or help, guidance in terms of getting your course done and selling, you can go check out my links in the description below. Until then, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Here's to making amazing shit happen in business and life. See you next week for another dose of course creation tips.